Hi guys, hey, and welcome to our first day of video school. Yep, I know what, this isn't quite the way that we thought the year would end this year, but it's what we've got to deal with, so I'm sure that we'll all be able to get this figured out. Just be patient, do your best that you can, and certainly if you have any questions, don't hesitate to text me or get a hold of me through the Google Classroom or whatever the case may be. All right, so we're gonna try to pick up where we left off. We're just gonna review those things that we talked about as far as engine mechanical goes. Our videos each day are only gonna be about a maximum of about 15 minutes. Obviously, I put together a YouTube channel. That was the easiest way for me to get the videos that I make online and then get you access to them through the Google Classroom. So I'm not very good at YouTube channels, but I'll do my best and we'll try to work through this together. Anyway, so let's get started. Today should be Monday the 23rd if you're staying on track with us. Again, our videos and our lessons will only be about 15 minutes each and every day, so I would really appreciate it if you guys will try to stay on track with me and stay up with that. And I'll keep you guys posted on any changes that are happening in the automotive industry or any job opportunities that may come available as well. So anyway, just stay connected. That's all I can ask for you. All right, so let's get started. Let's review. So we'll start with the engine block. And what is the engine block? Right? The engine block obviously is the main body of the engine. Everything that the engine consists of is connected to or attached or in, what am I trying to say? It's revolves around the engine block. Okay, what are the components of the engine block? What does the engine block have? It has a, it houses the crankshaft, everything that the engine does performance-wise is directly related to creating energy or getting that crankshaft to spin and spin very, very quickly, and then that energy is obviously transferred to the transmission and then to the wheels that help the car go. So everything that we're talking about as far as the engine mechanical goes, all of those components are designed to get the crankshaft to spin. Okay? The engine block also has cylinders. Those cylinders obviously house the pistons and so on and so forth. That's where all the combustion happens, is in the cylinders here. It has waterways or water passages. Those water passages in the engine block allow coolant to transfer or travel through the engine block to help remove the heat or take the heat away from the engine block from the combustion process. It also has oil passages. All of these moving parts that are attached to the engine block have to be able to be oiled, and so the oil is transferred through different passageways within the engine block to create or to allow that oil to get to those moving parts. So those are oil passages, usually referenced as oil galleys, hallways, whatever you want to call those things. But that's what they're referenced as most often, as galleys. So that basically makes up the engine block. Everything that the motor consists of is, as I said previously, is going to be attached to the engine block. Okay. What are some of the things then that are connected directly to the engine block? Okay, obviously it houses the crankshaft. So the crankshaft is housed in the engine block. Crankshaft, again, we talked about it. That's the part that everything is designed to get that crankshaft to spin very, very quickly. Two, what else? Pistons, good. Pistons are housed in the crankshaft. The pistons are going to be located in the cylinders. Okay, pistons, connecting rods, what are connecting rods? If you'll remember right, they are that component that attaches the piston to the crankshaft. This component right here, that is a connecting rod. Oil pump, that's housed in the engine block, almost always mounted to the lower area of the engine block down near the oil pan, because obviously that's where the oil is, the oil supply is, so that oil pump is near the bottom of the oil engine block near the oil pan. Okay, so it houses the oil pump. And in some cases, it houses the camshaft. Now, we've talked about that before. Sometimes the camshaft is located in the engine block. Again, what type of motors do we have when the engine block, or the camshaft is housed in the engine block? Yep, if you remember right now, hopefully you guys said overhead valve. So if it's an overhead valve motor, that means that the camshaft is in the engine block. If that is the case, then we will also find lifters and we will also find, hopefully you guys are already thinking about this, you will also find push rods in the engine block. Okay, so those are the components that are housed in the engine block. Let me get this motor over here so you guys can see it. Let me get this tipped up just a little bit more for you. There we go. That's a little bit better. I'll get better at these videos, I promise you guys. All right, so again, the engine block, cylinders, crankshaft, connecting rods, pistons. Then on the back side, because this is an overhead valve motor, overhead valve, here we have the camshaft, lifters, and then the push rods here traveling up through to the cylinder head. Okay, the last little bit that we're going to talk about today as far as the engine block goes are bearing journals. Okay, so bearing journals. So if we talk about bearing journals, I'll do a video where we take an engine apart and we take a close look at the bearing journals and the crankshaft bearings. So in the crankshaft we have bearing journals. Bearing journals are the area that the crankshaft is mounted to the engine block. Those are called journals, or that area of the crankshaft where it would need to be attached to the engine block. So in this motor right here, here's our crankshaft down here on the bottom, and these components right here, this is a main bearing cap, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the areas where the crankshaft is mounted to the engine block, and those are called journals, or the area where the crankshaft can be attached to the engine block. In those crankshaft journals we talked about, there are crankshaft bearings, okay, or main bearings, because this is the main component of the engine. They're called main bearings, and if you remember right, we took a look at these before, at least I passed these around. You remember they're kind of a thin piece of metal, right? There's no bearing, there's no ball bearings in there of any nature, of any kind. Okay, and so you get a pretty good idea what those main bearings are. And so these main bearings go in between the caps and the crankshaft to help hold it into place. So we have bearing journals, bearing or main caps. Main caps, that is the component that holds crank shaft in place. And then you have main bearings. Always try to remember that when we're talking about engines in the automotive industry, the crankshaft, anything related to the crankshaft is considered main, or the main part of the crankshaft. That's why we have bearing journals. This should actually be main bearing journals, main bearing caps, okay? And then main bearings. Those are the bearings, or those metal bearings that go in between the cap and the crankshaft. So that gives you an idea. That's a pretty good overview of what's going on with the crankshaft and the engine block to get us started. So that's a pretty quick lesson. Go through that answer sheet. We should have covered most of those questions right here in this video. Answer the sheet and submit that to me, and then tomorrow we'll have another video. We'll move on, do a little bit more discussion about pistons, connecting rod journals, connecting rod bearings, and so forth. So it's good to see you guys. Plan on being here tomorrow, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.